This is the Conrad Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Food for 5 years. 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim, and today is June the 27th, 2024, and this is episode 459 of Workshop Radio. How is everyone out there this fine evening? We are getting an absolute dumping of rain. We're getting, just got my IBC totes / rain catchment barrels installed, and we're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 inches of rain, which on the prairies this time of year is a hell of a lot of rain. So welcome back to This Week in Prepping, where we start off with a rule to live by. So I put the list of 37 rules to live by that I attempt to live by and put them into the random number generator. And this week we got number 25. This one came from a very wise man. Bear with me. I'm going to read it to you. I hope you reserve judgment until afterwards. But rule number 25, a lazy man will always find the easiest solution. Or a better way to phrase it, if you want to know the easiest way to do something, hire a lazy man to do it. Now, where did that come from? Well, Alex, my old operator in the oil patch, what a great guy. He would go by Alex or by Sandy, and he always told me that. He said, I asked him one time, how do you know all the tricks? How do you know how to do all these things? And he goes, because I'm lazy. I go, what do you mean? Come on, no, seriously. And he was an old Newfie. You can only say it in his Newfie accent. And he's like, well, bye. He says, if you want to know how to do something the easiest way, you got to hire yourself a lazy person. And I was like, huh. In other words, don't kill yourself trying to figure something out. Be efficient in what you do and don't spend more energy on something than you have to. Now, that doesn't mean to half-ass something, but what it does mean is sometimes you overthink things. Sometimes you try to put way too much gray matter into a solution when really you just ask yourself, what would a lazy person do? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. A little bit of fun for you, but I've always enjoyed it. I've kind of kept that in my my book of rules to live by ever since. So we're also live on the Shorts feed on YouTube. They continue to push that, and I'm kind of excited to be in the vertical format as well. So anybody over there, we'll try to grab as many comments as we can. We got 3 screens going all around here this evening. Spend some time today kind of rebuilding my desk so that my screens aren't so claustrophobic. So I'm kind of excited about that. But anyhow, I hope you guys are doing great. Let's see who we have in the chat so far. I see One Step Closer. I see Digger. I see Happy Friday Eve's Human from Pippin. Wow, right on. Jana Wilcoxon. Good to see you. Said lazy. That's good to know. Yeah, it's a great little quote that I've used for many, many years. So, all right. It's good to have everybody in here. Let's dive right in.
If anyone dies while you are kept in your fallout room, move the body to another room in the house.
The time has come for Stranger Than Fiction. So here we are, folks, back with Stranger Than Fiction, the segment that inspired This Week in Prepping, I bet you, just about 2 years ago now. So what do we got to share with you? Well, we've got a few, so let's dive right in. This week, our first article comes from PBS. I know, put the shotguns away, but pbs.org. And this one here says, cyber attack on software company disrupts businesses at thousands of car dealerships. Now, I heard somebody, this might have came from Ryan Pippin, I'm not sure, but I did hear somebody mention this just the other day. If you guys haven't noticed, there has been a metric shit ton of cyber attacks, hackings, ransomware attacks, whatever you want to call them, over the last couple of years. It just seems to be becoming more and more of a big deal. And what does a person do about this? That's the big question. I don't know if I have a simple answer, because in our totally intertwined, kind of interconnected world, to even pull out and be able to try to work off grid is damn near impossible. Oh man. So Ryan Pippin here says, this hack hits me directly in my wallet and job. CDK Global has basically shut down my dealership. And this is going on and on. You've heard me. I just keep reporting on this stuff because it just seems to keep happening. But last summer, the largest bookstore in Canada basically shut down, went back to pen and paper for almost a month. Earlier this spring, one of the larger drugstores in Canada, definitely one of the largest ones on the West Coast, shut down for the better part of a week. Still don't know exactly what all happened, but it was what it was. And so here we go. Thousands of dealers across North America have been forced to revert to pen and paper after a software company they rely on was hit by several cyber attacks. I actually missed that word several when I was doing my show prep here. The outage has not only caused delays and inconveniences for customers, but it's also raised a major concern about whether sensitive data was compromised. That's always the big thing. I mean, so here we are. I was giving some thought to this exact situation earlier. And, I know companies back up their data. I know that they, hopefully have, multiple databases in offsite locations that can be reinstated. But the problem is, number one, is a lot of times when this happens, they don't know where the weakness, the Trojan horse, whatever it was that people use, they don't know where that is. And so they can reinstall all of the old data, the old database, but if they can't fix, if they don't lock the back door, the chickens, the horses, the goats, the donkeys, they're all going to get out. So where do you go from here? And again, they're going to pen and paper, which kind of sucks. Here it is. Thousands of car dealers across North America have been forced to revert to pen and paper after a software company they rely on was hit by several cyber attacks last week. The outage has not only caused delays and inconveniences for customers, but has also raised major questions about whether sensitive data was compromised. The company that was hit was called CDK Global, and they provide internal software systems for about 15,000 different car dealerships. Right there. Ryan Pippin put that up. In America and Canada for all their internal computer systems. We're writing everything down by paper and pen, by hand, but we can't get back into our end systems and see what the actual warranty costs are on any of these things or what they're going to cost. So here it is. We're going to talk about this. I don't know. Maybe tonight's theme is modernity. I heard somebody chatting about that the other day and how we wouldn't have evolved as a species without modernity and all of the good and the bad that comes along with modern times. And tonight, without trying to be too negative, I think we're going to deal with 2 or 3 negative issues that come along with modern society. And this is definitely one of them. Our interconnectedness, the fact that our entire lives, systems, workplaces, financial institutions are all interconnected. And it don't take much for, 3 or 4 15-year-old kids over in some Middle Eastern country to decide that they are ready to hack whatever it happens to be. I had another article that I didn't make the cut this week, but they were talking about the ability, or it was a hacker group jumping out and saying, hey, we've actually touched into the Federal Reserve. Now, they couldn't prove it yet, so whether it's true or not, but the fact that they're looking at getting into that would make me and probably everybody just a little bit nervous. So what can we do about this? Obviously you can't protect your local car dealership. And I would say, wait. If you were going to buy a vehicle, just wait. I don't think anything good could come out of buying a vehicle right now during the time that these systems are completely down. For personal reasons, something I've been thinking about lately and I really need to do is change some of my passwords. So definitely something looking at worth doing. Also creating electronic copies and paper copies of all of your documents, anything pertinent to yourself. Hey, we've got a minor select. No, I'm just kidding. Mr. Sonny Pazakis, good to see you in here this evening. If you guys haven't caught some of his stuff, do yourself a favor and check him out. He's following us over on Facebook right this evening. And I had the pleasure of shaking Sonny's hand and sitting down for an interview with him at the last Self-Reliance Festival. So it's great to see you, sir. So Pippin says, totally not an inside job and totally not asking for $80 million. And over on the vertical feed, Hardway Alaska, great to see you, said affected Alaska dealerships too. And folks, no offense, Hardway, but if it made it all the way up to Alaska, it can make it just about anywhere. I mean, you know, if they're willing to pick on a small little Western Canadian pharmacy, it is definitely, you know, and maybe they go toward things like that because they're like, you know what, this is low-hanging fruit. This is easy to get a hold of. And they might just be willing to pay for it. Now, a lot of the companies do the same thing, like Chapters and Indigo. That's the big bookstore up here in Canada. They said, you know, we don't negotiate with terrorists, and they didn't pay the money and they had to rebuild everything from scratch. But, you know, I would say just keeping an eye on our own personal data, changing passwords when you can. If you hear about things like this, canceling personal credit cards or changing the numbers, whatever you can do. But there's only so much we can do to protect ourselves from a company's mishandlings of information. So there it is. That's the first one of this week. Kind of sucks. It just seems like there has been an absolute outbreak in these information for hire, you know, looking for some sort of ransom. Like, it's just a bad scenario, guys. So anyway, let's move on to this one. This is a sad. So first thing I want to ask you guys, if you've heard this story, so I'm going to read you. This is from WAPO, the Washington Post. Article reads, lost for 10 days in California forest. Man survived by drinking from his boot. I hope he wasn't just drinking the sweat from his boot. But anyway, so two things from you guys. Number one, kind of list the mistakes with me as we go along, because you'll get them pretty quick. But number two, what could he have done differently? It's a pretty short article, but there are some serious survival and prepping lessons in there, both that were negated and learned from this. So here we go. 10 days lost in the California forest. For days, Lucas McClish roamed the woods in Santa Cruz Mountains without food, without supplies. What helped him survive? Drinking lots of water out of his hiking boots. I mean, I'll do it, you know. But anyway, the 34-year-old resident of Boulder Creek had left home on the morning of June 11th, authorities said. Here comes the first one. For what he thought would be a short hike. I don't know. I'm sure most of you have heard the old saying that we shouldn't assume. Anybody know what happens when we assume? It makes an ass out of you and me. Take a minute, spell assume, and you'll figure that one out. But it's true. I mean, when we assume anything, we take anything for granted, that's when shit goes sideways, right? So here we are. Said, so number one, he thought it would be a short hike. He assumed that the sun would come up tomorrow. He assumed that everything would be the same way that it always is. Number two, I didn't bring anything because I thought I was doing a 3-hour hike to go to work, McClish told KSBW News. So, thought it was going to be a short hike. Didn't bring any preparations. But he got lost. And those 3 hours turned into 10 days. His family reported him, are you ready for this? 5 days into it. So I don't want to completely read into this. Maybe the family was used to not hearing from him. But what does that tell you? All right. Number one, he assumed it was going to be a short trip. Number two, he didn't take supplies. Number three, he probably didn't tell anybody he was going anywhere. And number four, there's some sort of red flag there that they didn't check in on him for 5 days. There you go. Now here's an interesting thing. Again, going to talk about technology. Authorities used drones to locate him in a thick forest Thursday after several witnesses reported hearing his pleas for help. Okay, so it sounds like I wanted to say he stayed in one place, but he did not, because we'll get to that in just a moment. But he was signaling for help the only way he had, because he didn't have a mirror, he didn't have a whistle. The only thing he had was his voice, which must have been getting rather parched and dry, but from all the hollering. Sonny, over in the comments here, Sonny says, I'm amazed at how many tough guys don't even own a basic compass, have zero land navigation skills. It's kind of similar to the dudes who are like, I don't need a Bic lighter. That's for fake survivalists, or that's for whomever. I mean, dude, that's the same folks that say, I don't need roadside assistance, or I don't need life insurance because real preppers don't have that kind of shit. Nope, wrong. Chris Watkins, good to see you in here. All right, so they used drones to locate him after people heard him hollering. I'm surprised they didn't stick around. I mean, now, again, the voice could have carried many, many distances. He does talk about how, well, actually, let me get on to the next part. So what do they always tell you when you get lost? As a kid, the first thing you do, stay in one place. One time when I was stupid in college, we decided we were going to go to Quiddy Falls. And this was in New Brunswick, and the woods are thick there. There was a group of about 6 of us, and we went completely unprepared. We just headed into the woods where we thought the trail was. We get in far enough where the woods closes in on us, realize we don't know what direction we're going, and we realize we're in the totally wrong place. Now, the advantage we had was we had about 6 people with us. And before anybody else could say anything, I said, listen, here's the deal. And the only reason it's not like I had a lot of experience with this, but my dad had told me stories about all the close calls he had as when he was hunting as a young guy. So I said, listen, the group of us stay right here, and one person walk in one direction as long as they're still in shouting range. And we ended up having to send somebody in 3 different directions before we found our way back to the road. And we were not, this is going to sound awful, guys, we weren't more than 200 or 300 yards off the road. So that worked. That stay in one place. I mean, it was kind of a modified version of that, but either way, man. So here it is. So I kind of just hiked each day. I'd go up a canyon, down a canyon to the next waterfall, and sit down by the waterfall and drink water out of my boot. McClish said he also foraged for wild berries, but toward the tail end, he said he really felt the need for some kind of sustenance. Yep, there it is. So, and of course, the thing he wanted the most was a burrito and a taco bowl. But when it comes down to it, those are the lessons. I mean, it's the same as in the wintertime, really any time here on the prairies, but especially in the dead cold of winter. You don't hop in the vehicle without having, winter clothes to survive the elements. And if you do, you're crazy. I try to tell my kids all the time, we'll be going to volleyball, and Charlotte will be like, it's okay, I can just wear leggings, or it's okay, I can just wear shorts. And I'm like, we're an hour's drive, sweetie. What happens if we end up in a ditch? Or, I hope that shit never happens. And, you don't want to be the negative nanny or Nancy or anything like that, but just be prepared just a little bit. Even just the small, like 2 things, check in with your family before you left, tell them when you're supposed to be there. And if he was hiking to work, why the hell didn't his work look for him after 5 days? So, check in with somebody and just have even a small little survival kit, even like a whistle or a compass. It kind of amazes me that he was comfortable enough to do what he thought was a 3-hour hike on his way to work, but uneducated enough to take any kind of survival products with him. Yeah, there it is. So anyway, good to see Chris Watkins in here this evening. Great to see you. Over on the vertical feed, we got Gunfighter Concealment says, hit the thumbs up. It's the free thing to do, folks. Appreciate it very much. All right, what do we have next? I think we need a sip of apple pie moonshine before we do anything else. There we are. Ooh, nice and tasty, kind of cinnamony. Next comes from Zero Hedge, and the title is Visualizing the Death of Cash Transactions Around the World. So I have quite a few sources that I will go to each week to find some of the most, precedent articles to share with you guys. This was written by Tyler Durden, if you guys know who he is. We don't talk about what he's involved in, but anyhow. So this was just something I kind of wanted to look up. There's not a lot of information here. We can infer a few things. But at one time, when I used to travel regularly from Canada to the U.S., I noticed that cash was used significantly more in the U.S. than in Canada. And now I've noticed, especially over the last 18 months, year to 18 months, it's just not used nearly as much in the States anymore either. So check this out. Here is a visualization. It's hard to see per se, but I'm just going to read you what it says here. It says where cash is king for now. The prominence of cash used in transactions is dropping in every country measured. Yeah, no shit. We know that. This includes country where cash was preferential method of payment in point of sale transactions. One clear example is Nigeria. In 2019, over 90% of transaction value was still in cash. That number has now fallen to 55%. In 5 years, it has dropped by almost 50%. It's cut in half the amount of people using cash in a, less than first world country like Nigeria. Cash is still the leading payment method in Nigeria and a handful of other nations, but current trends indicate this may not be the case for much longer. For now, cash also remains the leading method of payment in various South American and East Asian countries. And yes, so I mean, you'll notice again that the more developed, the more first world the nation is, the less cash that's used. So, and again, there's a theme in a lot of these stories. We're going to talk about gold bar vending machines later on and some thoughts as to what people are going to do. Because here's I guess, where did this idea come from? Well, I've been relying more and more on my phone lately. I've installed a couple of cards on my Apple Wallet. It makes it really convenient when we went to the hockey games. It makes it convenient when I travel. It works 100% in Canada. I have yet to have a problem with it. And it worked 80% of the time in the U.S., which is pretty incredible for a Canadian bank card on a Canadian phone. So it is what it is. But we know that at some point, cash is going to be almost non-existent. So I guess the first thing would be keep some, have some on hand, because at some point they probably won't be printing anymore. But at what point does cash, I mean, okay, here's a question for you guys. Does cash ever become an unusable currency? Does it ever become something you just can't use anymore? And then what happens, right? So check this out right here. We'll scroll down. There's the list. Nigeria at 55% cash transactions, down to Norway, 4%, Sweden, 5%, New Zealand, 6%, and Canada, 6%. In some places, cash payments are already a rarity. This includes Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and most Nordic countries. The report predicts that France, Singapore, South Korea, the UK, and this one caught me off guard, and the United States will fall below 10% transaction value by 2027. So I think what's really killing cash transactions is the ability, tap, number one, and electronic wallets on your phone have really killed the last bastion of cash transactions. And that is the small transactions, the stuff that you'd pull $10 out of your wallet to buy a coffee or $5 out of your wallet to buy a coffee. Well, in most cases, it's faster to tap a card than it is to make change. So what do we do as preppers? Well, I don't know if there is a hard and fast solution, but taking strides to step outside the system, at least a bit, helps. Having alternative forms of currency helps, i.e. precious metals, i.e. I don't know, Bitcoin, anything like that. I mean, I love the Lightning Network. I think it's great. I know that Wallet of Satoshi was shut down, or at least it was shut down for a bit in the US, but either way, we got to have alternative methods, right? So barter, great. Having skills that you could trade, great. I mean, I hope that we don't come to the point where we can't use cash ever, but boy, I want to tell you, I think we're doing a damn fine job of kind of eliminating cash as a people in general. So anyway, kind of interesting little graphic, just kind of a neat little chart right here. So here we go. We got Sandy says some places don't accept cash anymore. I have seen that. What I've also noticed is that a lot of places, and that was my other thought I wanted to share on this, guys, is COVID accelerated this beyond belief. It's going to be interesting. We can sit here and look back on COVID now, but in 10 to 20 years, the sociological textbooks that are written on that, kind of 2 to 3 year window of COVID, however you want to look at it, that just totally uprooted so many societal norms. I mean, the fact that, cash transactions almost disappeared overnight, the fact that work from home became a thing, the fact that, remote or electronic doctor's appointments, electronic signatures, so many things just went from hard copy to electronic and just never went back. So yeah, I get it. And Pippin says, I have no plans to link a credit card to my phone. I get it. I totally understand. And I will not judge you for not doing it at all. For me, it was a convenience thing, but it's also the fact that all my information, it's all on the same network, no matter how you want to slice it. So, I mean, if my credit card goes, my credit card goes. I have many other options or alternatives, I guess, but it's a shitty situation no matter what. And Sandy, you are right here. So Sandy says, I've noticed most young people never seem to use cash at all. And that becomes a problem. I mean, like I said, I go to the hockey game, I travel somewhere. Yeah, I've got cards saved to my phone, but I also have cash back here. And if I'm traveling any distance, I take another card out and I throw it in the back of my phone. And then, of course, I also have cash and cards stashed elsewhere as well. But so you gotta come up with multiple solutions as you go along. And let's see, got somebody else in here this evening. Cormac Harkin, great to see you in here. All right, what do we got next? This one from the land of Big Brother, literally and figuratively, comes from evo.co.uk. Anybody catch this story this week? This one really grinded my gears a little bit. It reminded me of a mix between iRobot and Demolition Man. Here we go. Mandatory speed limiters to be fitted on all new UK cars in 2024. Yep, that's right, in 2024. And apparently they gave folks, was it a week or a month's notice? That was it. So the use of mandatory speed limiters on all new cars was approved by the European Parliament in 2019, and it's set to come in force later this year. However, the UK decided they were going to enforce it as well with very little notice. Dubbed the Intelligent Speed Assistance, definitely not designed to take away from the fact that you're going to have something in your vehicle that controls how fast you can go. The limiters will use GPS data and or traffic sign recognition cameras to determine the speed limit of the road on the vehicle that it's traveling on. Engine power will then be limited to match this, preventing the car from exceeding the speed limit. Or just going to throw it out there. How about we've decided that everybody needs to go 10 kilometers an hour below the speed limit just to look after the environment. That could happen, couldn't it? There you are. All right. Engine power will then be limited to match this, preventing the car from exceeding the speed limit. It will also be possible to override the system for the current journey by pushing hard on the throttle. However, the system will re-engage every time the car is started. All right, here we go. If the driver continues to drive above the speed limit for several seconds, the system should sound a warning for a few seconds and display a visual warning until the vehicle is operating at or below the speed limit again. Holy shit. I don't even know what to say there, guys. So if that does not sound like iRobot or Demolition Man when they get into the vehicle and they're like, hey, I'm going to drive this vehicle. No, you're probably not. This is crazy. Yep, it is. A feature already seen on all new Volvos and models such as Ford Focus. The limiters are also set to, this is the best part. I just got to share it. The limiters are also set to come alongside data loggers, autonomous anonymous would be funny. So speed limiters, data loggers, autonomous emergency braking systems, lane keep assist, driver fatigue detection systems, and other safety measures. So if you didn't like your vehicle snitching on you as it is, all these other features are going to make life so much better. Now, this is only in the UK for now, but it is kind of the same with California. They pass a law and then eventually it works its way across the rest of the continent. Now, here's the best part of this article, trying to frame it in a positive note. It's not all quite as bad as you might think, though. Really? Okay. Because initially, it will come with a full on-off switch. This is only to aid public acceptance at introduction. However, and it's likely that it intends to push for even stricter rules in the future, meaning a permanent system may come into force. So don't worry about it. You can turn it off for now. Just like the TVs in Big Brother. Oh my God. Anyway, this one really got me. Of all the stories this week, this is the one that really jumped up and bit me hard. I don't know. I hate that kind of stuff. But yeah. So there's definitely, if you needed another reason to have an old model bug out vehicle, this could be it, hey? All right, final interesting piece of news. Maybe this is a piece of news, but this was pretty cool. If you guys haven't seen this yet, and no, I'm not looking for more land in Tennessee, but this came up in my Facebook feed. This is findahomeinTennessee.com. 8871 Griffin Road. For the minuscule price of $1.35 million, you can have a 1952 bunker. Yep, that's what I said. Ultimate hideaway. Tennessee and U.S.A. built bomb shelter with 2-foot thick concrete walls. Majority of building is underground. Above ground portion is what is reflected on tax record. Underground portion is larger than above ground. Great site for tourist attraction, secure storage, wine warehousing, recording studio. Let your imagination take control. Owner financing possible to qualified purchaser. Oh boy. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys a few of the pictures though. I showed Becky this. She was pretty excited. She's like, "Oh my God, we should, look into getting it." But no, anyway, so here it is. It would be a lot of fun. I don't know. There's definitely an old civil defense generator. I don't even know why there's this really creepy looking jester in there that says, "How tall are you?" That's like, are you too tall or too short to get in? I don't know. But so there's some shelving. There it is. There's an old civil defense, what looks like diesel generator. Some nice spiral staircase, a ceiling that's fallen in. It would be a hell of a time to have something like this. What a fun thing you could turn that into. But anyway, so if anybody happens to be looking for, an underground bunker, then for $1.35 million, you can have the cool building in Tennessee. And I just want to shout out to Homestead Medical. Hey, Chuck, he's over on the vertical feed. Good to see you, brother. So yeah, there you go. I thought that was kind of interesting. Before I forget, all of the links from tonight's show, every article and everything I'm talking about are always in the show notes. I've gotten really good at that. I was kind of slack for a little while, and I've vowed to myself that I would do better. So anyway, let's take a look at the delinquents in here. We got a couple of new folks. I see Byron Roberts. Great to see you. And not B-Man J, but the B-Man J. Good to see you, brother. Always fun. So, yes, that is the end of Stranger Than Fiction for you guys. I wanted to show you this real quick. The latest shirt from Special Operations Equipment. John sent this one out to me just recently. I was, I think I maybe giggled like a little schoolgirl for a minute when I opened the package. Becky wondered, "What in the hell are you laughing at, Tim?" Here it is. Are you ready for it? For those on the audio, it is a picture of a bulldozer, a certain bulldozer that most folks would recognize. And it says, "Tread on those who tread on you." Yep. Love that shirt. Thank you, John and Amanda, for sending that one my way. Original SOE equipment.com, I do believe. Anyway, that shirt is, this shirt is absolute fire. So you guys will see a short on this one and another one later on, probably next week sometime. But yeah, this is a good one. So thanks, John. All right. So next, we're going to dive into the Prepper Files. And if you wonder what that is, I'm not sure who come up with this name, but the community did a couple of weeks ago for me. This is where we look back into this week in history and kind of touch on a couple of interesting notes from things that might have affected preppers. So number one, on this date in 1954, the first nuclear power station opened up. So 70 years ago, nuclear power has been around, and it was near Moscow. 1930, first detection of an airplane using reflected radio waves, a precursor to radar, was used in Washington, D.C. I thought that was pretty cool. And in 1972, Hurricane Agnes becomes America's costliest natural disaster, affecting 15 states with 119 deaths and $3 billion in damage. And if that's $3 billion in 1972 dollars, that's a lot. But either way, that's a, yeah. So this week in history, reach back into the prepper files. I like those interesting dates and, useless pieces of trivia, but it's always something I enjoy for sure. So I hope you guys enjoy that segment. It's only a little short one as we go along, but here we are.
And you stay on the back roads, and you keep your gun handy. Our country is still full of thieving, murdering patriots.
Get ready for I Read It on the Internet. All right, guys, here we are. We have the next segment is I Read It on the Internet. And if you don't know what this is where we scour the front page of the Internet. Really what that is reddit.com. We go to Our Preppers and we find the most interesting story that trended this week. There's always little nuggets of truth and information in there, but I couldn't just settle on one this week, so let's go with two. So here we are. The first one was, I needed a go bag yesterday, and I never thought I would. This comes from Nosy Nelly 712. Yesterday was the first time I actually needed a go bag. I live just downstream from a major dam in our area, and the dam partially collapsed. It's the Rapidan Dam in southern Minnesota. I'm pretty prepped in a lot of ways, but never thought of the possibility of the dam collapsing. I'm still amazed that I got clothes for me and my husband, as well as our meds, special pictures, important documents, technology, and other basics together in my car in about 30 minutes. I've never been so scared that we might have to evacuate. We're still in our home, thank God, but now I'm fearful to not be ready. This is really just to say that I never thought I'd need to bug out, but that nearly happened yesterday and could still potentially happen to me now. Stay alert and ready for everything. These are wild times. Yes. I would, yeah. I mean, you live downstream from a dam, and I'm not going to bust the person's balls because we all become, I lived 30 miles across the Bay of Fundy from a nuclear power plant. And if that ever went up, yeah, I'd still be glowing. So, but I didn't take a whole lot of extra precautions for that. So I get it. We become numb to whatever we're used to, right? Whatever the status quo is. So not judging at all, but I appreciate people's candor and honesty when they share this kind of stuff. So let's take a quick look at a couple of the comments here and see what people said. But Meat Rocket says, I saw that on YouTube yesterday. The police were saying the dam was in imminent failure mode or something similar, with dead trees slammed up against the dam and water rushing around the dam. Police said that no evacuations were planned, but that people could be in danger and might be warned about leaving. And they threw up the idea, and I like this quite a bit. Take pictures of your house and items if you haven't done so, and if it's safe. It helps dealing with insurance claims should it come to that. I hope everyone involved stays safe. So Becky and I have gotten into the habit, and maybe we should do it more often, but we do it every second New Year's Eve. We sit down and we back up all of our pertinent data, all of our, prescriptions, our IDs, our passports, pictures of our dogs, pictures of our kids, everything we think of that we would need. And we also go around and take pictures of, most everything that we have in our home. And then we put it on an encrypted drive so we have it. Now, one of those, that's a great thing to do. Now, like I said, we do it every 2 years, probably could do it every year, no problem. But this person mentioned if you're leaving and you have time. Now, you may not have time because it could be a very quick evacuation, but take a minute and snap some pictures of some of the things that might be an issue if you have to fight with your insurance company. And this lady said, I never thought about taking pictures, but I will now. A temporary levee was built right by our home yesterday, and I feel good about that. But with Mother Nature, you just never know. And then somebody else said, also get specific specs on any electronics. If you have a laptop, insurances will find the cheapest option to approve. If you say you had a specific one with 12 gigs of RAM and certain specs, then they have to approve a replacement for that specific spec. Model numbers are important. Yes, they are. So take pictures of your model numbers on any tools that have them, your generators, anything like that. I've told the story many a time that some crackhead wanted my little tiny Honda generator more than I did back before I knew enough to write down or take pictures of the model numbers. Not that it would have done any good, but there was multiple failings on my part, the least of which was not leaving my garage door open overnight. And I mean the roll-up one, not the man one. Yeah, I know I was stupid. There you go. Maybe take pictures of each item's of value and also a picture of the part of the item that lists the model, serial number. Store a copy somewhere other than at home, but hopefully still accessible. Friend, family nearby, and in the cloud. Every time I'm leaving home for extended period of time, over 48 hours, I make a recording of everything in the house. Open the drawers, closet, make comments on what's there. It takes about 10 minutes to do, but proves what you had if a lawyer ever had to fight with the insurance company. Now, it's a great idea. I'm not sure that I want to be doing that every time I'm leaving the house for 48 hours, but a couple of times a year, why not? I mean, or after each time you make a significant purchase, you make changes, something like that. Sharp Ad 9431 says, I live in Tornado Alley, and every time the weather gets bad and I have a tornado, I do a video walkthrough of the house just to have an update on what I have. Now that's not a bad idea. Again, a couple of times a year would probably be sufficient, but a quick little video, especially how cheap storage is now. And, we think nothing of taking 47,000 videos when we go to a concert or a hockey game or, your kid's recital or whatever else. And, so I don't know. It is. Yeah. So take pictures, document, have a bug out bag ready, have a model. I have a mini version of a bug out bag already in my truck. So if we have to bug out and we're not from home, at least we have some prescriptions, underwear, socks, and toiletries, that kind of thing. And we got Chris Dixon over in the vertical feed, and he says, my vertical feed isn't nearly as weird as Brian. Boring. And by Brian, he means the Lots Project. Yes, I've heard he's had quite some fun over there as of late. We'll leave it at that. So anyway, so that's the first segment of I read it on the internet. Here's the next one. This one's a lot of fun from friends of mine, and you guys will probably know them. I read the article I read the post first, and then I looked closer to see who posted it. But what are some things, and I'd like you guys to answer this too if you want, throw it in the comments, but what are some things that preppers do that piss you off? And this is literally here. What are some things that preppers do that piss you off besides starting a podcast? What are some things that preppers do? Really interested to see what everyone's pet peeves are in the prepper world. Just hope to make the preparedness community a little better if that's possible. So that was posted by our good friends, the Casual Preppers, Cam and Colby. And so Northern Prep says, fortune telling. Now, what do you mean by fortune telling? Let me explain. Having a precise way that society will collapse and what everyone will do and how it will happen, and then preparing for exactly and only that. Again, if you're not preparing for Tuesday, why are you preparing for an EMP? If you're not preparing for losing your job, if you're not preparing for being broke, if you're not preparing for health-related issues, why are you worried about an EMP that's going to happen on September the 13th, 2027? I don't know. Yeah, why did I say that date? I have no idea. But just saying, why are you being so specific on one thing that you don't see the forest for the trees, right? So, number one, having a very specific collapse scenario in mind and only prepping for that. Bad idea. How about this one from Water Lily? I'm going to bug out. I'm going to live off the land. Yep, you and 100 million other people. Good luck. Again, if you're going to bug out and live off the land and you haven't made a plan and you don't have land and you don't know how to live off the land and you've never practiced living off the land, you want me to continue? Yeah, everybody knows. This one, Silvercat 70. Oh, yeah. I think 2020 proved that we don't know how society collapses. I think probably more like, I believe it was T.S. Eliot that says, how did the world end? Not with a bang, but with a whimper, something along those lines. However, we will know that people will lose their ever-loving minds and hoard toilet paper. Also, it showed how many people were not prepared for a disaster. I did find it very interesting how people will ignore things that are happening to demand they be able to continue life as they knew. It showed another mindset that's not prepared for a disaster. Yeah, I don't disagree at all. And here's one. Arguing about the absolute best tool for the job and encouraging people to only buy the single most expensive thing. How about nitpickers? The types that have opinions about every brand and every piece of equipment. I tend to take a stand of, if it's affordable and it works, it's good enough. Folks out here counting threads and fabrics, measuring fractions of percentages of how much nickel is in an alloy. It's an illness. Yep. How about this one? I get pissed when lone wolf or gun preppers suggest they'll just show up in the country or on a homestead or a permy farm and trade security for help. Yeah, that's going to work. Even worse was the prepper guy who provides grid down consultations to the government who said people should frequent bed and breakfasts or country farm vacation spots to get familiar with the owners so they have a place to bug out to where they can provide security or food. Dude, we all have guns. We all have family, friends, and neighbors with guns. You aren't welcome. And I think maybe one of the worst that I hear is even tongue-in-cheek sometimes is people are like, well, I don't need to prepare, or I don't need to hoard food. I don't need to have anything. I got guns. I'll just go and get it somewhere else when I need to. Yeah, that ain't happening. Enough as enough. How about this one? Chris Dixon over on the vertical feed. Yeah, I like this. Hoarding knowledge. It's fine to keep your preps a secret, but when someone asks how to do something, don't be a gatekeeper. Exactly. Don't be that dick who looks at the 14-year-old kid wearing a Nirvana t-shirt and says, name four songs. Dude, you don't have to. It's okay. They can just like the logo, or they can like the band and not know the name of songs, or, it's okay. Just because you know how to make a beehive from scratch, somebody else might not. And remember, you had to learn at some point as well. So again, yeah, don't gatekeep. That is one of the worst. And you are right, Mr. Dixon. Thank you for sharing that, because I hadn't thought of that one while prepping. I was an unprepared prepper. There you go. How about that? All right. What do we got next for you, folks? Oh, I got a good one now. So let's dive into
nothing like eating under an open sky, even if it is radioactive.
Dropping the dime on precious metals. All right. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about precious metals. I just couldn't have come up with a better name myself. Byron Roberts named this segment Dropping the Dime. And it's a good one. We got a couple of little things. So the first one I'm just going to touch on. It's just an interesting little tidbit that I thought was kind of cool. But before we do that, we're going to shout out to Mike's Homestead over on the vertical feed. Thanks for joining us, sir. Always appreciate it. All right. So this one here, South Korea has gold bar vending machines and they're selling out. First it was Costco. I know. See, could not go an episode without mentioning Costco. I think I like Costco as much as I hate IKEA. Simple as that. No, I like the fact that Costco sells gold. Let's put it that way. Bloomberg reported this week that in Seoul's upscale Gangnam district, a GS retailer company convenience store featured a vending machine selling gold bars ranging in less than a gram to 37.5 grams. So would that be up to 1.5 ounces? So with prices starting at around $64 and fluctuating daily. Initially launched in 2022, these machines are now in 30 stores nationwide. Kind of cool, I thought. The one South Koreans, and here was first off, there's a picture. I think they look really sharp. This one looks like a multi-tailed dragon on it. Looks bigger than I thought. This is probably the biggest ones, but so here's the thoughts. It says South Koreans are joining the global investing trend, with many investing in fractional shares and physical gold amid, here it is, widespread interest in various asset types from meme stocks to cryptocurrencies, the report noted. Now here's the throwaway line. The one thing we see in common with the United States, i.e. the one thing we see in common from South Korea to the United States, is that people want, or maybe I should insert my own word there, people desire to exit the fiat currency system. Now, why do you think that is? Are people nervous? I think they are. I think people are trying to back up what they, I think they're trying to fix a fear that they have. And that's okay, as long as you don't go overboard. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment, as far as going overboard and people taking advantage of a vulnerable section of society. But all right, in South Korea, the convenience store CU, a competitor to GS, quickly sold out of its ultralight gold cards, with the 1 gram option disappearing in just 2 days due to high demand from people in their 30s. Interesting, hey? Yeah, so there you go. I thought that was kind of cool. Gold vending machines, I couldn't. Here's my problem, guys. I don't think I could go buy one of those without buying one. I think I would be like, 13-year-old Tim, who could not go past Phil's New to You Music and Books without stopping in and buying a pack of hockey cards. I just couldn't do it. Simple as that. It's so funny. But yeah, anyway, there you go. So now the next one, this one is a little more sad. And now this article comes from the Washington Post. I know 2 articles from WAPO tonight. I apologize, but this is something that we need to talk about. And it may be something that other folks aren't aware of. It's something that I wasn't completely aware of before, but I also have a YouTube video to back up this article. So I'm just going to give you the gist of it because it's too long to go into for the entire story. But here it is. How the right-wing news powers the gold IRA industry. Ads for gold coins have become a mainstay on Fox News, Newsmax, and other conservative outlets, even as regulators have accused some companies of defrauding elderly clients. Okay, so first off, if you ever listen to Fox News or Newsmax, especially the radio version, you are going to hear commercials for companies pushing the gold IRAs. Now, number one, what are some pieces of advice that folks say about gold? You know, don't go all in. 5 to 10%, simple as that. If you're going to buy it from a reputable dealer. Would you buy, I mean, I'm going to tell you something. If I go to a website looking for pricing on something and the website says phone for pricing, do you want to know? That is the quickest way to get me to not do business with your company. I'm sorry. It's just simple as that. It's almost like if you want me to not answer your post on Facebook, end it with "and go," because I can promise you the only thing that I'm going to be going to is the next post. So here's the deal. Okay. If you're going to buy gold, do not put your entire retirement savings in gold and silver. That's dumb. It's just stupid. Diversify, number one. Number two, if you're going to buy gold, buy it from a reputable dealer. This one should go without saying, but if you're going to buy gold, buy it from somebody who actually tells you the price. Okay. And you might be saying, well, of course, why wouldn't I do that? Well, here's the thing, guys. And I'll give you the gist of this. This video, if you get a minute to watch it, it's 18 minutes long. I watched it earlier today while I was having lunch. And it basically talks about Augusta Precious Metals, American Hartford Gold, Birch Gold Group, and a bunch more. So these companies have a long, drawn-out history of defrauding the elderly. Now, I am totally in favor of the free market. You guys know that. So I am definitely not coming on here to say what we need is more government intervention. No, what we need is people looking out for the older people, your family looking out for them. But story after story of an elderly person who bought gold, who saw these ads and decided, hey, I think I need to take my RRSP and turn it into gold because fear, right? We all know it. Fear sells, sex sells, the whole works. But these folks are listening to Fox News, Newsmax, whatever it happens to be, day in, day out, and they see these articles and they hear, the economy is going to collapse. Go to gold. Okay. Well, anyway, that's what they hear. They get scared. They call this phone number. What ends up happening is they get talked into taking their entire portfolio of investments and switching it over to gold. Now, here's the thing. If they switched it just to gold at fair market value, I would say still not advisable, but I'm not going to twist your arm and tell you not to do it. Okay. But what ends up happening is these companies are selling gold at almost 100% markup, while being told, if at any point you want to sell your gold back, we'll buy it back instantly from you. What they're not told is we will buy it back at fair market value. So 100% markup on gold and silver sold to old people who may or may not know what exactly they're doing. Sometimes up to 30% fees are involved in this thing as well. One thing after another. And you get guys, this one guy invested $120,000 and lost over $40,000 almost overnight. So this is a scam to look out for. If you have elderly parents who are like, I want to buy gold, well, number one, help them with it. Say, hey, let's go on silvergoldbull.com if you're in Canada, or some of the more reputable ones like jmbullion.com. Really, any company that you can go online and you can see their prices and they've been in business for a while, and you can look at the melt price or the spot price for gold today, and you can say, oh, okay, yeah, that's not bad, 5 to 10%, because every company needs to keep the lights on. Every company needs to make a profit. But what you don't need to do, what I need to be able to do, is sleep at night, look at myself in the mirror and say, you know what I didn't do today? I didn't steal half of an old person's retirement fund simply to make myself rich. So just watch out for the elders in your family. And remember this, that, they talk a quick game. They play fast and loose. They delete the recordings. So they keep the part of the phone call where the senior says yes to the deal, and they delete the rest of it where they made empty promises and confusing statements. So keep an eye out for that, guys. If you're interested, like I said, there's an article there from WAPO. It's a bit of a hit piece on conservative news, so you don't need to read the whole thing. But, truth is truth no matter where you find it. And if this is even a quarter as bad as they've been saying, we got to watch out for the elders. And if you want to see about a 20-minute breakdown, this guy interviews a whistleblower from one of the former companies and goes into deep detail of what some of these companies have done in the past and how they've played the shell game, where the first company has gotten, taken to court by the FBI or whomever happened to go after them, Federal Security Exchange Commission, and they get shut down. So the guys just move to another company, start a new company, on and on they go. So something to look out for. So there we are. Next, this is just a quick little article. This is just kind of the food for thought that didn't fit in anywhere else. And so this is the little segment that we're going to call Toolman Tech. Somebody came up with that name a couple of weeks ago. It was a good one as well. This is really quick. This is because you guys know that workshop radio is modeled after, or has become an inspiration by, AM talk radio. I grew up listening to it and listened to it probably till I moved out here. And, I enjoy the old timey kind of talk about interesting current events. And I've tried to bring it a bit to the prepper sphere. So anyway, I'm always sad. This article come up in my feed after I saw another posting yet yesterday for 2 more AM radios being shut down in Canada. Now, I am never going to say the government needs to step in and keep them open, keep them afloat, because no, that shouldn't happen. I'm just sad for the nostalgia of it. I'm sad that we're losing AM radio, but at the same time, I don't listen to AM radio anymore, so I can't expect a company to keep something open and trying to keep bailing out a boat that they can't keep afloat, right? So anyway, France will cease all FM radio broadcasting by 2033. And that also includes AM. They didn't go into that in this, but I saw it in another article. This portends a problem for North America. There's a technological movement afoot in other parts of the world that could leave North America behind when it comes to radio broadcasting. Commercial AM radio has been with us since the 20s and FM since the 60s, and that's where we are today. Other than the addition of satellite radio in the aughts, not much has changed over the decades. Yes, we have some HD radio signals available, but they haven't exactly caught on. So this article, without going too far into detail, I mean, I like AM radio. I don't think COVID accelerated the death of AM radio, but the death of AM radio has been vastly accelerated recently. There's been a lot of cutbacks and there's a lot of hurting in Canada in the media end of things. So you're seeing company after company dropping AM stations. Some are redundant, some aren't, but they're just not making money anymore. And you don't have to listen to it for very long to realize why that's the case. You've got electric vehicles that aren't putting AM radios in there. It sounds like FM is going to be going the way of the dinosaur before too long. I mean, most of us stream off of our phones at this point anyway. I prefer satellite radio, but I'm starting to get more and more into streaming with my phone as well, especially with the advent of unlimited data in Canada over the last year or two. That's been helpful. So they're going. So it's going to be one of those things that we have to rethink our communications plans, rethink a bit of our information gathering plans. It's also going to be interesting to see what happens when those bandwidths get opened up. And it's also going to make some room for maybe some pirate radio stations in the meantime, or maybe some emergency management groups in small towns could take over some of those because even if you turn off the AM radios, the signal, there's going to be millions upon millions of receivers out there that could still be used. So it's still going to be a viable way of transmitting information and disseminating data, but at least for a generation or two, right? Eventually, AM and FM radios and that sort of thing are going to be the same as, black and white film, or when you go to a yard sale and you see a camera, it's like, oh yeah, what's that? Isn't that nostalgic, right? I mean, we're kind of to that point now, but much longer, and I guess we'll see, won't we? So yeah. All right, what do we got next for you? No name for this, but I thought it was funny. I want to share it. I'm going to bring it up full screen and I'll read it for those who are in the audio only. So here it is. This is a cartoon from the AI collaborative novel called The Robot Apocalypse. It's pretty good, actually. So here it is. Now on Book Chat, we are delighted to welcome the co-authors of the runaway bestseller, Robot Apocalypse 2030. And it looks like they're on a podcast or a radio station or something like that. Litbot 500. How did it feel to collaborate with a Nobel Prize winner? Well, Litbot happens to say, I've admired John's writing since my inception, so it was a dream come true to write nonfiction together. Now remember, the book is called The Robot Apocalypse, and he said to write nonfiction together. The host says, you mean fiction, right? Oh, yeah, silly me, as the robot's eyes get turned from green to red. This book is fictional, entirely fictional. So I don't know. I thought that was fun. The link, if you want that meme or that cartoon, it'll be shared in the links tonight as well. But, a little bit of fun at the expense of artificial intelligence becoming sentient, right? All right, what do we got next? Community nail bag, I believe. Give me a second here and we will go into that. All right, here we are. So the community nail bag. And what is that? Well, let me share with you.
It's the apocalypse, end of days, the judgment day, the end of the world, my friend.
Let's dig into the community mailbag. So this is where we take a look at some of the feedback I got this week from the community. And there's some good stuff in here. First off, this one comes from Tom1898 on one of my shorts that I took out of last week's This Week in Prepping. And it was about staying cool when the power's out. And this person said, just in case you didn't realize, there was life without air conditioning. And maybe I shouldn't read that in a sarcastic tone. Maybe they were being legitimate, but it reads very sarcastic to me. So here's the deal. Sorry. Yeah. A little Michelle Tanner from Full House, but I get it. I understand. The problem is acclimation or lack thereof. The problem is that as a society, most folks in the Western world have not become acclimatized to life without air conditioning. And that is why when you see, a heat wave in Texas, people don't die. But when you see a heat wave in England, people do die because people aren't acclimated. They're not used to it. And so when they have to deal with things like air conditioning and they get, or lack thereof, holy shit, what do? You lay down and die. So that's the thing. It's not about, yes, life existed beforehand. Well, I know that, but it's about the shock to the system for the short period of time that you end up having to deal with it, right? So anyhow, next, this one comes from Donald Thomas. And they said, hold it, partner. I bought 2 DeWalt knockoff batteries that didn't last no time. This is in response to the video I did on the DeWalt knockoff batteries, the ones that I liked and I've had great luck with over the last couple of years. They cost me good money and didn't last at all. Here's the problem. I thought I was buying DeWalt batteries, but they tricked me. And that's what it says. They tricked me and send 2 knockoff batteries and was totally worthless. I purchased knockoff batteries from both Amazon and Walmart online, and I simply lost my money. So don't tell me about the quality of knockoff batteries when I've been duped twice. The DeWalt batteries that I purchased, for the most part, anyway. So that was my response. So here's the deal. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So number one, how did you get duped twice? Unless it was a literal fake ad that said, here is genuine DeWalt batteries. Now, I have never once bought a knockoff DeWalt battery that said it was a DeWalt battery. I have bought Whately batteries that are DeWalt knockoffs that worked great. The problem is when you go to buy something that says it's something that it isn't, you're in for a rough time. And I think that's what happened to this guy. He probably got suckered into some, Amazon and Walmart, and you bought it both times. Like, that sucks, dude. I feel bad for you. I'm into my third year with these knockoff batteries, and I've had pretty good luck. Now, I know Chris Dixon ended up having one that died on him. So they're not made to the standards of a DeWalt battery, but for low impact use, I've used mine mostly in the handheld blower and stuff like that. It's held up great over a couple of years. So that's all I can say is do your due diligence. Don't buy something that is labeled DeWalt that you think you might be, if the deal's too good to be true, it is. Let's leave it at that. This one came from a funny, I know the shorts feed is boring over there this evening, but I do get some really good comments on my shorts feed. And here it is. Jay Kuntz, 4244, said, "You look like you're on at least 4 watch lists." And I responded with, "That's the nicest compliment I've been given all week. So thank you. And I guess I'm doing my job right. And also, maybe undervalued me. Maybe I'm on more than 4 watch lists. I don't know, but I thought that was pretty humorous. They said I look like I was on 4 watch lists. So does your mom. So there we go. All right. Ronan Kraut, 6873 says, and I wasn't sure how to read this comment at first, but I'm going to take it in a positive light. And it says, "No wonder society is falling apart because you folks are leaving it." Now, they might be like, "Oh, preppers and homesteaders are pulling out of society." Okay, well, that might be the case. And, they might be mad at us. I don't know. It reads to me like they're mad that folks that want out of society are leaving society. But here's the way I'm going to look at it. Obviously, we're valued folks who are pulling themselves out of society, and we're looked on as valuable folks. So yeah, no wonder society's falling apart. Anybody read Ayn Rand at all? Because if you have, I know that's fiction, but boy, sometimes fiction mirrors reality now, doesn't it? So, all right, I got a couple of surveys here. We're going to come back to those in a minute, but I did skip one segment this week for you, and that is This Week in the Workshop. And if you guys wonder why I do This Week in the Workshop, well, I've shared it enough now, but it's really for 2 reasons. Number one, so that you guys know that I'm doing shit and that I'm not just pretending. Because I watched another video today about, there's been a few of these over the years, but it's somebody who looks at the fake homesteaders on YouTube and says, they're just in it for the money. And so anyway, there's lots of good ones out there. You guys can pick the ones that you think are definite bullshit, but here we are. And as Mike's Homestead over on the shorts feed said, screw the looters. Yep, I agree. So This Week in the Workshop, weekly recap. Picked up 2 food grade triple rinsed IBC totes in Edmonton when I went down. I went down last week with my son-in-law. We actually were privileged enough to go see Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Might be the only time in my life, who knows, that I can watch it this close to home, but it was a hell of a time. But either way, we picked up 2 IBC totes, brought them back home, got them all hooked up yesterday, just in time for this big rain. I'm going to go out tonight as soon as I finish and see how much water has accumulated. If my math is correct and we get the 1.5 inches they're calling for, each side of my roof should give me somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 gallons, which should fill my IBC totes completely. I'll let you know, keep you in the loop. Last weekend, I spent the entire weekend in Lloydminster. It was kind of a nice working vacation with my beautiful wife and my daughter, Olivia, and her husband. We were up there, and Curtis, that's my son-in-law, we tore out 5 walls at the daycare. We expanded multiple rooms. So we turned 2 rooms into 1 3 times, tore out a wall in the back storage area. It was a hell of a time. I loved doing it. I was beat. I think I'm still catching up from it, to be honest, but still working on the painting in the 12 units. We're so close now, and it's kind of surprising, but by the end of July, if I don't rent this unit, we're going to have 3 units available, which has never happened over there. I still have my suspicions that we're going to get people in there, but this is the time of year where people don't like to move around. They're busy living life to the fullest. So as getting closer to school time, it probably will, but either way, we're almost done. We've done a lot. Anyway, I'm going to show you guys pictures once the painting's done, but I did do a repair on a hollow panel door that I'm 98% happy with. First time I've ever done it. It was an exercise, not in futility, but something I needed to learn. I installed backup lights on the Ram, just 2, I think they're 40 watts a piece. LED. Oh man, they're bright. I like them anyway. Right now, I just tapped into the trailer harness, so they only come on when they back up. But I watched a video the other night about hooking them up to a rocker switch so that you can have them on, off, or only when backing up. So we'll see. But anyway, I've got a bunch of supplemental lighting coming on the Ram, and at some point some backup racking and things. I'm excited. This truck I'm keeping for a long time. So I will document some of the upgrades in case anybody's interested. And finally, if you guys remember me about a month ago telling you that I built a retaining wall out back for my dogs to keep them from crawling under the fence that I built a couple of years ago. That's the problem, that you build a fence to keep the dogs in. Works perfectly until you level your backyard with a skid steer to put in new sod and realize you have to dig down next to the fence a bit, and then the idiot dogs start climbing out, and then you have to build a retaining wall out of stack stones, which turned out great, by the way, but had to wait an extra month to get the final 65. So job's done. I'm happy. It was a new skill. On top, it's perfectly level. In the front, I got just a little wave in a couple of spots, but I've never built one before. So don't be scared to try something you haven't done before. All right, and what do we got finally here? I've been running the polls and the quizzes over on the community page on YouTube because, again, YouTube has been pushing it hard, and I love the community feedback. It might be one of my favorite things to do. So the most well-received poll this week was, what makes the best bug-out vehicle? And we got 125 votes. 11% to the bus, 19% to a Jeep, and a whopping 66% said pickup truck. I tend to agree with them. And the other one was, what preparedness skill around the home would you most like to improve on? And if you don't know what preparedness is, it's the art of home maintenance when help isn't around the corner. In other words, being a self-sufficient handyman. So 18% said plumbing, 29% said HVAC, and 49% said electrical. And I'm going to go along with that. And I'm going to say the reason electrical is probably so high is because, it's the one that'll kill you the quickest. And it's the one that requires, has the highest learning curve, I guess. You just have to be comfortable with it. But my son-in-law helped me swap out a dryer yesterday at my son's rental. And I was teaching him about the difference between 110 and 220 and showing him how to test it and how to be careful and how, typically if you touch 110, you're going to have a bad day. If you touch 220, it could just be a bad day, or it could be a hell of a lot worse. So anyway, just those simple little things. But yeah, feel free to experiment, folks. Don't do way more than you're comfortable, but you got to do a little bit more than you're comfortable. It's the only way that I've gotten moderately good at a lot of things. I'm not perfect. I don't do a perfect job of a lot of things, but I have the, jack of all trades and master of none kind of level of, moderation for all of these different trades at this point. So if you need to learn, ask, read, watch, and then do it, guys. Just do it. Again, don't take on more than you can handle, but take on a little more than you can handle, because you can do it. And if you don't have anybody out there encouraging you to say you can do it, you can. Because I met a dude at prepper camp a couple of years ago, really hit it off with him. And last year he told me a story about him needing to fix his water heater. And he just kind of wanted to beat it, kind of throw it off me and say, hey, Tim, do you think this will work? And I said, I'm not really sure, to be honest, but it sounds like you've given enough thought to it to make it work. And I got a message from him about a month after prepper camp. Hey, got my water heater working. So that made me really happy. So, and if I can help you guys in any way, shape, or form, let me know, because I'm no expert. I might play one on TV. No, not really, but I'm no expert, but I've screwed up enough to hopefully be able to share some information with you. So Anyway, guys, I appreciate you. Tonight's episode, just a slight bit shorter, but I love bringing This Week in Prepping to you. So if you have a few things, if you have any suggestions for segments, let me know. If you're interested in providing a segment, let me know, because right now we only have one submitted segment per month, and I'd love to have a couple more for sure. If you got any interesting articles, great. More than that, if you have any comments, great as well. Also, thank you for the boostergrams over on Fountain, because I got one earlier today or yesterday, and it meant a lot to me. It came from the Bitcoin Viking, and he said he was going to have a drink for Maui because last week's episode was memorialized the three-legged cat that we had that passed away, Maui. So thanks for that, guys. But I just appreciate any and all feedback. You can always email me at therealtimcook@gmail.com. And with that, we will see you Sunday evening. I believe this Sunday is going to be a laid-back episode with myself and Mrs. Toolman herself. So it'll be a good one. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.